It's a peaceful place. It's friendly, it's neighbourly. You can see people if you want to, or you can live up here on your own. In fact, I'll tell you a secret. When I'm really busy, I've got a sign I hang on my gate, road closed, and people take one look at it and they believe it. When I want visitors, the sign comes off. If anything goes wrong, people turn up. Bushfire, people everywhere. In the droughts, even the bushfire tanker will bring you water if you're in trouble. Cleaning the gutters, I fell off the roof. Got lectured from everybody for being on the roof, so now someone else comes and cleans my gutters.
I bought this property 3 years ago from the Cody family, which were the original owners of the property. And for the last 2 years, I've been living here permanently with a Murray Grey stud that I've been building up from scratch. And I do hope to make it a viable proposition. It's ceasing to be a hobby farm, and it's really going to pay. And I love it so much and enjoy the peace and quietness of the place. I just hate to think it's going to be taken from me just when I'm getting it going so well and working so well.
Yeah, well, my great-grandfather came here for the settlement by the government, and then my grandfather came in then and bought different land up different times, and then my father took over, and then I took over. And I think the valley should stay the way it is, and the army should find new places to get to. I don't believe in the army coming. I wouldn't like the army truck coming. Trucks coming here, all you get would be dust and noise. And they could find a wider space where their noise don't worry people. And I think that's about all I can say in favour of them.
This sawmilling business has been in the family for the last 50 or 60 years, and in the last 12 months we've decided that we had to improve the machinery a lot, and we've spent about $250,000, and about 2 months ago I found out off the local forester, Merv Harris, that the army looked like taking over our logging area. And after having a yarn to him, it meant that there'd only be another 5 years life left in the sawmill here. That's on the Waddingon State Forest, which is only 5 years left. And our future life would be what the army contemplates taking up. And I just don't know what we're going to do after the 5 years. We'll just, well, the machinery wouldn't be near paid for. We'll just have to close down. My father before me bought about 3,000 acres of private property surrounded by the forest for future logging for the mill. And it looks as though that's going to be taken up as well, and we'll lose out on a few years logging there, which has been saved for the last 20 or 30 years. Also, we've got about 20 people working for us and supply the local council and a lot of local carpenters, and most of our timber is sold locally. That's all I can think of. I don't know what we'll have to do. We just have to close down, I suppose.
In my opinion, the coming influx of the army into the Wollombi Valley raises a number of terribly important points. The most important, possibly to me, is that the Wollombi Valley area should be completely and utterly inviolate from any government involvement. Our forefathers came on the first land route to the north and northwest of New South Wales and into southern Queensland. There are many families in those areas, Narrabri, Gunnedah, Moree, Weewaw, who trace their roots back through this valley. In fact, it is more important to them than it is to the old people of the Wollombi Valley itself. Anyone who feels that the government has the right to walk over a little bit of Australia's history, just does not have a national pride, and does not really understand where we're going in the 21st century. We also get the problem, and it is a major problem, that the government, through its army, is more likely to increase their area than ever decrease it, so that even the major roads which go through the area at the moment between the areas of Crown land are likely to be cut forever, so that the original roads will no longer be trafficable for the people who have traditionally driven through here. We get the problem that the army over the last few months has caused problems with bushfires on their artillery ranges. In Canberra, it is almost certain that artillery firing on a very high fire danger day caused a large bushfire. In Singleton, during the early months of 1984, a bushfire on army land was far more difficult to control. Far more country had to be burnt out to control the fire because of the army's involvement. We also get a major problem. We're going back now some years to when this country was extremely heavily logged. The valley below Broke shows extreme siltation going right down through to Newcastle harbour. The heavy machinery coming in from the army is only going to increase this problem. It is very likely indeed that there will be ongoing costs to the people of New South Wales to keep Newcastle and the Lower Hunter free of silt. We have a very, very delicate ecology. This country is only just starting to recover from the way we have already desecrated it. We must recall that this is a major Aboriginal area. We have a major meeting place of the tribes, the eastern tribes, the northern tribes, and the western tribes. This area is terribly rich in Aboriginal relics. It is horrifying to me that we can allow anyone into this area who will possibly desecrate, but certainly stop any further involvement of the Aboriginal or the scientific community in investigating our prehistory.
This is a place very sacred to Aborigines and also historically of great significance to Europeans. It is a place called Mildredale, which was settled first in about 1820 and has had a continuity of rural activity and association ever since. Behind me is a place that has been possibly known for countless generations of Aboriginal people. It is the cave of Wollombi, the great protector spirit, whose outspreading arms is giving protection to all living things in the Hunter Valley. He was a very important spirit of the Wanneroo people, whose territory was of hills and plains, as this country surely indicates. He is a very spiritual figure, as shown. He is in full Boer uniform, as it were. He has his Boer belt, he has his cuts, but of very special significance, he is portrayed as a spirit of the beginning time. He has no mouth. And that was a time when only the birds had vocality. It was only in later periods when the birds offended the Great Spirit that vocality was transferred to man. But here we have symbolism at its greatest peak in Aboriginal tradition, mythology and spirituality. Also associated with Wollombi are some very significant stencils, rare stencils of the weapons of the forearm and the hand stencils and of other spiritual things. It's indicated here the longevity of the clans of the people who were once the Wanneroo, who occupied this land for countless generations. They are symbolised by strokes, and it would indicate that Wollombi does give a message of tremendous spirituality and of protection. He, like his people, loved this environment. His people, unlike our people, preserved this environment for ever so many thousands of years. They lived with nature. They understood the harmony of nature. I would ask that anybody who dares intrude upon this sanctity of history, and that's what it is, sanctity of history, are doing a very wrong thing. They are despoiling some things that belong not only to our ordinary heritage of the European culture, but they are attacking, eroding, and possibly creating destruction for all time of the ancient heritage of this country, which may go back 50 or 100,000 years. And those who come here can understand why the Aborigines call this the beginning of the Hunter Valley, and how they imposed upon stone in red ochre and in buff ochre their beliefs, their spiritual beliefs, their symbolism, their mythology. And it must never be destroyed. It must not even be interfered with. Rather, that if the government is talking about heritage, if it's talking about being Australian, it should be making funds available to restore and preserve these places, rather than introducing elements of destruction that will destroy possibly something of antiquity that will horrify the world who believe in the history of man and mankind. My final word is no army base.